In the dark sky above the ruined city, a girl floated like a feather in the wind, her silver eyes glowing in the night, her white hair moving gently in the air. She wore no clothes of this world, only a thin layer of light wrapped around her body. Like fog, she was not human. She was Seraphim. She came from the stars, from a place where time was slow and silence was deep. Her mission was simple: watch the humans, do not interfere, learn their ways, then return back to the council above. She believed she was invisible. She believed no one could see her. She had watched many humans in many cities, but this one was different. This one was dangerous. Boy was sitting on a broken rooftop, looking at the moon. He looked normal, brown eyes, short hair, wearing a torn jacket, holding a sketchbook in his lap. But there was something strange about him. Girl hovered above the building, watching him like she did every night. He did nothing. He just sat there drawing in silence. But then something happened. Something that broke her rules, something impossible. The boy looked up slowly, very slowly, and stared directly at her eyes, not at the sky, not through her, not past her, but at her. The girl froze, her wings stiffened, her heart beat faster, a feeling she did not know before. What is this? She whispered, fear. No one ever saw her. No one ever looked at her like that, not even the elder. She floated back, but he kept looking, his eyes calm, not afraid, not surprised, just knowing. He smiled a little and said in a soft voice, you are late tonight. The girl felt her hands shake. This cannot be. She thought. She moved to his side, quickly circled around him, hovered behind him. Maybe he is guessing, maybe he is mad, but then he spoke again. You always fly in circles when you are nervous. She gasped the soundless sound, her eyes wide. This human was not normal. She flew high up into the clouds, hid inside the mist, tried to calm down. She touched the communicator on her wrist, called the others, her voice trembling. Need a report. Subject D7 is aware of me. Silence replied. Then a cold voice from above, impossible. Humans cannot see us. You broke protocol. Retreat immediately. Do not engage. Cut the line. Her mind full of questions. How did he see her? What is he? Who is he? She returned the next night, hiding behind shadows, careful to stay far. But he was waiting again, sitting in the same place, his sketchbook open, his pencil moving. She floated behind a tower, watched from far. But then he lifted the page and showed it to the sky. It was her, a perfect drawing of her face, her eyes, her hair, her wings, even the glow around her. She whispered to herself, no, no, this is not real. This cannot be real. She moved closer, a little closer, her voice soft like a wind. You can see me? He nodded, but did not turn around. Yes. How? The girl asked. How can you see me? What are you? He smiled again, closed the sketchbook, and finally turned his head. His eyes were not brown anymore. They glowed faint blue, and he said, because I was made. To the girl's breath caught in her throat. What does that mean? Who made you? He stood up slowly, walked to the edge of the roof, looked at the broken city below, and said, you are not the only one watching. She flew back, shocked, scared, confused. Her world was breaking. The rules were wrong. This human was different. She went back to her ship, hidden in the clouds, sat in the glowing chair, and stared at the screen. Her fingers touched the glass, showing the boy's face, and she whispered again and again, how did he see me? How far above the stars? The council watched their faces, unreadable. One of them whispered, send the watchers. He must forget, or she will be erased. And on Earth, the boy sat alone, drawing wings in the night, waiting for the invisible girl, who now knew she was not invisible anymore. Rain fell from the sky like broken stars, cold and fast. It danced on the empty streets like whispers of a lost time. The city was asleep, but not him, not the boy. He walked through the ruins, slow and calm, his shoes splashing in puddles, his hands deep in his coat, and his eyes glowing blue like light behind glass. He was humming a song no one remembered, old and haunting, soft and strange, as if it was meant for ears that did not belong. On Earth, the girl was high above, watching, silent as a shadow, her wings tucked in her glow dimmed. She followed him for hours, from rooftop to rooftop, from alley to alley, like a ghost following a ghost. She did not understand him. She was born to watch humans, to study their lives, their emotions, their wars. But this one broke every rule. He saw her, he spoke to her, and now he was drawing her face over and over again in his book with the same care as someone writing history. She thought maybe he was Dangerous, maybe he was a mistake, but something inside her wanted to know Mortonite. He entered a forgotten building with walls full of machines. Lights blinking, screens cracked, wires hanging like dead vines. She had never seen this place. She floated down slowly, passed through the ceiling like mist, and landed on a beam above him, unseen, unheard, unsure. He stood before a strange table, metal and cold. His fingers moved across a panel, typing codes in a language that was not from this century. The screen lit up with a word, I, all capital letters. The letters shimmered, then shifted and became something else. A diagram of a child, not a normal child, but a human, mixed with patterns of energy, her own energy. Her breath caught. What is this? She whispered to herself. How does he know our code? How does he know our structure? The boy looked up, smiled slightly without turning his head, and said, I told you, you are not the only one watching. She stepped back, wings spreading a little. Who are you? She asked. What is EYE? He turned now slowly, like someone revealing a secret. Carefully, he pointed at the screen and said, EYE is a project made to see the unseen, made to find what should stay hidden, made to look directly into the face of the unknown. She felt her skin go cold, her mind racing. You were made to see us, she asked, her voice soft and shaking. Yes, he said, and walked toward a locker, opened it, pulled out an old dusty file, threw it on the table. The name on the file was Project EYE, Subject 3. She floated down now, closer, hovered near the file, looked at it without touching, and saw a photo of the same boy but younger. Wires in his head, eyes closed, and glowing machines reading his brain. You were trained, she said, forced into this. He shook his head. No, I volunteered. I wanted to see the truth no matter the cost. I wanted to know what watches us from above, what flies in silence, what listens when we cry alone. She stared at him in silence for a long moment, her heart full of noise she had never felt before. Humans were not like this. They were loud and blind, but this one was calm and full of light. He turned to her now, face to face, even though no one should see her, and said, I see you even when you hide, even when you vanish, even when you are afraid. I still see you. She looked into his eyes and felt something shift, not in the sky, not in the world, but inside her, something soft, something dangerous. She asked, why me? Why do you follow me? Why do you draw me? He smiled again and said, because I remember you from a dream when I was a child, before the machines, before the tests. I saw a girl flying in the sky, wings made of stars and eyes full of sorrow. That was you. She wanted to deny it, but she could not. The dream was real, she remembered. That night she had broken the law. She had watched a child for too long, and now that child was this boy. Suddenly the building shook, the lights blinked, a sound echoed from outside. Heavy steps, metal boots, sharp voices saying, secure the target room 3 now. She looked at him. Who are they? He replied, they are coming for you. They know you are here. They know. I made contact. We have to go now. She hesitated. She had never run from humans before, but now the danger was real, not just for her, but for him too. He grabbed her hand, even though he should not be able to touch her, but his hand passed through hers like smoke, and still he whispered, trust me, and jumped through the window. She followed, not because she was ordered, but because she wanted to, and the rain kept falling like broken stars, washing away the rules, one drop at a time. The wind blew through the forest like a whisper full of secrets, cold and sharp, like the edge of memory. The night was dark, no moon, only clouds moving fast above the trees. They were running not from war, not from beasts, but from truth, the kind of truth that changes everything. The girl flew low between the trees, her light dim, her breath heavy beside her. The boy ran silent, fast, like he had done this before, like he knew where to go. She looked at him again and again, confused, afraid, and yet drawn to him like gravity. She had never run with a human before, never shared silence like this. They stopped in a cave hidden behind the roots of an old machine, broken and forgotten. Metal vines covering the entrance. He lit a small lantern with a pot spark from his glove, his face glowing in the orange light, not scared, just tired, like someone carrying a heavy truth for too long. She floated inside, hovered above the ground, her voice soft, almost shaking. Why are they hunting me? Why now? He sat down pulled his sketchbook from his coat, flipped through pages, and stopped at a drawing, not of her, not of him, but of a place it looked like space, but not space, a temple in the stars. She stared at it, her eyes wide. "How do you know this place?" she asked. Her voice barely air. "This is not Earth, not even close." He looked up slowly and said, "I saw it in my dreams. Since I was 6, glowing halls, voices in a language I never learned, and always the same sound, wings in the dark." She whispered, "That is the hall of codes. That is where we are born, where we are named." "How did you see?" I closed the book and said, "Because I was not just made to see you, I was made from you." Her heart stopped, her wings twitched. "What do you mean from me? What does that mean?" He stood now, walked to the far wall of the cave, opened a small hatch, pulled out a device glowing blue and gold. A Seraphim scanner. Her breath caught. "Where did you get that? This is Forbidden's tech. This belongs to the elders." He placed the scanner in front of her and said, "Scan me, you will see." She hesitated, her fingers glowing, reached out, touched the scanner, and in one blink of light, it showed what should not be possible. Human body, Seraphim code, mixed, tangled, breathing together, one soul inside another. Half light, half blood. She stepped back. No, this is not allowed. No human can hold our code. This breaks the law of origin. This is against the council." He nodded slowly. "I know they used your memory, your flight pattern, your energy, and stitched it into my DNA. You watched me when I was a child. Remember that night? I looked at the sky and smiled. You were there. They recorded that moment and turned it into a blueprint." She fell to her knees, not from pain, but from knowing what she had never imagined. That she was not just a watcher, she was a beginning. He sat beside her and said, "You are not just invisible, you are the source of sight, the first light in the dark outside." The cave thunder rolled, the sound of machines approaching, drones scanning, voices calling, "Target located, move in." She looked at him, her eyes bright with fear. "They will erase you, they will erase me, they will not let this truth live." He nodded again, but this time his voice was calm. "I do not care. They made me to see, but I chose to feel. I chose to follow you, not because of programming, but because I remembered your sadness." She reached out, touched his face, her hand passing through like before. But this time, he closed his eyes and said, "Even if I cannot touch you, I feel you more than anything else in this world." Her mind raced, her mission was broken. Her code shattered, her loyalty torn. She wanted to protect him, but that meant betraying her kind. A message blinked on her wrist, urgent, red from the Seraphim Council. Subject compromised. Initiate, erase, or face deletion. She stared at the message, stared at the storm building outside, and said a word she was never trained to say. "No." She closed the message, powered down the device, crushed it in her hand. Her glow pulsing brighter than ever before. "If they want to erase you, they must come through me," she said, and her wings unfolded for the first time in full light. He looked at her in awe and whispered, "You broke the code." She nodded and replied, "Maybe. Some codes are meant to be broken." And outside in the shadows, something ancient watched and waited. Eyes like mirrors, wings darker than night. The hunt had begun. Silence filled the hidden bunker like smoke, heavy and slow, thick with secrets and old air. Walls were made of steel, but the feeling inside was softer, older, like memories sleeping in metal skin. The boy opened the hatch with a strange code. Not human, not Seraphim, something in between, letters that glowed for a second, then faded like a dying star. The girl followed slowly, wings folded, eyes wide. She had never seen this place. Her kind had searched the earth for traces of Forbidden's tech, but this place was invisible even to them. They walked into the hall, and the light flickered, weak, like it did not want to wake up. Machines buzzed in the shadows. Computers whispered to each other, wires hung like vines, and at the center of the room stood a pod. Boy walked to it, placed his hand on the glass, and said, "This is where I was born." She looked at him confused. "You are human. Your body is human. This is not your origin." Smiled, but it was a sad smile, the kind that hides pain behind it. "No, I was not born. I was built not in a hospital, but in a lab. Not by parents, but by scientists who wanted to see what was hidden in the sky." The screen lit up and showed words. Project I Phase, 03 subject still ACTIve. She hovered near the screen. The letters were from the archive. A language only Seraphim scribes knew. This is from our vault. How did humans get this code? He answered without looking at her. Because you gave it to us not by choice, but by presence, by watching, by existing. You left behind footprints. Energy signatures, memory echoes, and they collected it all. She stepped back. Stunned, her voice soft. You used our light to create vision. He nodded yes. The project was called Eye, not for the human eye, but for what sees beyond sight. What sees into souls, what sees the watchers and speaks their name. She whispered, this is a crime. He looked at her now with no fear and said, maybe, but it is also a mirror. You came to watch us, but we also watched you, and in that reflection something new was born. The screen changed now and showed images, her face, her wings, her glow, all recorded. From childhood visits when she broke protocol and stayed too long near the human boy. She whispered, they used me as a pattern, as a base for you, yes. He said, and I became something that was not allowed, something that does not belong to your world or mine. She turned away, her thoughts loud, her heart full of cracks. I was supposed to observe, not to be remembered. Walked to her gently and said, but you were remembered. Because you mattered, because you brought light into a world full of shadows. Suddenly, the alarms rang loud and sharp red lights filled the bunker. The screen flashed location, breached, enemies, INCO main. She moved faster, glow rising. They found us, she said, her voice fierce and afraid at the same time. The boy opened another panel, typed fast and said, I can lock this place from the inside, but only for 6 minutes. After that they will break in. She stared at him. We must run. We cannot fight them. He shook his head. If we run, they will find us again. If we fight, they will erase you. If we hide, they will erase me. Then what do we do? She asked, her voice shaking. We show them the truth, he said. We show them. I am not a weapon, and you are not a mistake. He pulled another file from the system labeled Phase 0. It opened to reveal something. She never expected the face of a Seraphim. Not her, not the council, not any she knew, and beside it a human woman. She whispered, what is this? He said, this is the original. Project I, the first connection between your kind and mine, the first time. Seraphim loved a human, and the result was a being like mesh, felt something shift in her wings, in her heart, in the code that defined her purpose. This was not an experiment. This was a beginning. Outside footsteps echoed, metal soldiers' voices calling. Scanners buzzing closer every second. She looked at the boy one last time and said, then let us show them what they were never ready to see. He smiled, placed his hand on the core, and activated a pulse light, filled the room like a sunrise without sky. A signal went out into the stars, not a warning, not a threat, but a message. We see you too. And high above Earth in the Hall of Codes, a single Seraphim elder opened her eyes for the first time in 1,000 years and whispered, so the children have awakened. The wind screamed across the valley like a warning, sharp and cold, carrying dust and fear. The cave was gone, now burned, broken, filled with silence and smoke. The boy and the Seraphim girl stood on a ridge looking down at the ruins, knowing what came next was not escape, but war. She watched the smoke rise, her glow dimmed, her wings folded close, her voice a whisper. They moved faster than I thought, faster than light. He touched the wound on his arm, blood warm and real, not like code, not like memory. They are not here to capture us, he said. They are here to erase us from the sky. 3 black ships cut through the clouds, shaped like knives, silent and deadly. Each carried marks, not of Earth, not of Seraphim, but of something mixed. A third symbol, a triangle inside a circle with one broken wing. She stared at it, her voice cracking. That is the mark of the rogue ones, those who left the council, those who betrayed both sides. He nodded. They call themselves the architects. They believe Earth should belong only to those who can control both codes, mine and yours. She stepped back. The ground felt thin, like the truth had shaken it too hard. The architects were myth stories told in warnings, not in history. He pulled a small cube from his coat, placed it on the ground and said, we have 60 seconds before they scan this area. We have to move. She asked, where do we go? There is no more hiding, not anymore. He looked up toward the east where the sky glowed faint and strange and said, we go to the gate. The last place untouched by either side, the last place they fear. ran together, her feet never touching the ground, his steps light, but strong, like he knew the land, like he was built for it. Behind them the ships landed, soldiers stepped out in armor black like night, with faces covered in silver masks, no voices, only motion, fast and cold, like machines with purpose. Leader raised a scanner, it pulsed red, then green, then blue. She is near, he said, voice like metal cut in half. They are both near. Another soldier asked, orders, sir. The leader replied, eliminate the hybrid, preserve the Seraphim memory, only her light is needed, the boy is obsolete. At the edge of the forest the girl paused, her voice fierce. I will not let them take you, I will not let them rewrite the stars. He looked at her and smiled, not like before, not soft, but sharp like truth. Even if they do erase me, he said, they cannot erase what you gave. Mesh stepped closer, placed her fingers near his cheek, not touching, not quite, but close enough, and said, then I give you one more thing. Her glow passed into him, not all just a thread, but it lit his skin for a moment, like fire that did not burn, like stars pressed against his bones. What is this, he asked. Shield, she answered, and a key. Use it only when there is no other choice. He opened his mouth to speak, but a sound split the air, a scream, not human, not Seraphim, a sound of machines that felt pain and joy together. They dropped low behind the fallen structure and watched as the soldiers moved like shadows, scanning everything touching the ground, reading memories from dust. Girl whispered, they are using memory readers, advanced ones. They can track us by feeling, by fear. Then stop feeling, he said, his hand reaching hers. Let me feel enough for both of us. She looked at him for a moment and almost forgot they were running, almost forgot they were different. But the sound of metal crushing wood brought her back. They are coming, she said, and this time her voice was not afraid but ready. He tapped the cube again, the ground shifted beneath them, and a stairway appeared, ancient and glowing, made of light not seen on Earth for centuries. The gate, he said, almost in awe. You found it. She smiled only a little and said, no, it found you. As they stepped into the path, the soldiers arrived at the clearing, scanned the space, but found nothing, only silence, only wind, only memory. Report, said the leader, lost track, sir. They vanished beyond the scan zone. The leader turned slowly, looking at the trees as if they whispered secrets. Then he said, send word to the architects, the anomaly is moving toward the gate. Activate Phase 4. And high above in the ship a voice replied, Phase 4 online, initiate Seraphim recall, prepare the extraction of Origin 1. Far below in the glowing tunnel, the girl suddenly froze, her eyes wide, her wings shivering. What is it, he asked. She turned to him slowly, her voice barely a breath. They are not just coming for us, now they are coming for my beginning. The tunnel glowed beneath their feet, not with light, but with memory, not with power, but with something older, something sacred. It did not lead down or up, it led inward, like a heartbeat, like a pulse in the skin of the earth. The Seraphim girl walked ahead, her wings brushing the walls, the glow from her body growing brighter with every step, like the place was calling to her, like it had waited for her. Boy followed close, his breath heavy, eyes wide, as symbols passed them, written on stone, written in code, written in stars. He asked, where are we? And her voice came soft. This is not a place, this is a memory left behind before time was named. Before watchers were made, before fear was taught, the path opened into a vast chamber. Round and endless, a dome carved from crystal, glowing with gentle fire. And in the center stood a statue, not of a god, not of a soldier, not of a king, but of her. Not how she looked now, but how she once was, wings wide, head lifted, arms open, and eyes closed. Like she was listening to a voice deep inside the stone. The boy stared. Is that you? She nodded slowly and said, I did not remember until now, but this place, it holds everything we forgot, everything they erased. He stepped closer to the walls, touched one symbol, and it lit up, glowing gold, then blue, then white, and the chamber came alive. Images moved across the walls, not flat, not still, but living memories. Like smoke trapped in glass, he watched cities floating in clouds, humans and Seraphim walking together, building together, learning together, not enemies, not prey, not watchers. And watch, she stood still, tears in her voice. This is the first age. The time before the code, before the laws, before the council, turned memory into rule. The boy turned. To her, you lived through this. No, she said, not in body, only in light. They copied me not to control, but to remember. And then they forgot why the images changed. He saw war, he saw fear, he saw the first betrayal, a seraphim turning on the humans, calling them impure, calling them dangerous, calling them blind. Then he saw a child born from both worlds, glowing like her, walking like him, and he said that was the first hybrid, like mesh. Nodded, her voice cracked. It was not supposed to be forbidden, it was supposed to be sacred, a sign that light and dust could create something new, but they were afraid, and fear rewrote the truth, turned love into code, turned memory into silence, looked up at the statue and whispered, they turned you into a myth, into a program, into a protocol. And she whispered back, and they made you a weapon from that myth. They stood in silence, the air full of broken stars, full of names never spoken. And then the statue cracked. A voice filled the chamber, not loud but everywhere, like wind inside the soul. Welcome back, Origin One, you have awakened the memory gate. Proceed to the heart. The wall behind the statue melted, not with heat but with recognition, and another path appeared, one made of pure energy floating above nothing. She turned to him. This is the last path, the one they sealed, the one only I can open. He asked, what lies at the end? She said, not what, who. And they walked. Path grew narrower, the space around them darker, not empty, but full of feeling, like the stars were watching, like the universe was holding its breath. And then they reached a sphere of pure light, hung in the dark, pulsing slow, like it was sleeping and waiting at the same time. She stepped forward, the light responded, opened like a flower, and inside sat a single seraphim, old and still and glowing like memory wrapped in skin. Her voice came like a river, you returned, my child. Girl fell to her knees, her wings dropping, her voice shaking, mother. The boy stepped back, stunned. This is your origin. This is where you were made. The old seraphim smiled, not made, born, not programmed, remembered. She looked at the boy and said, and you little light, made from the echo of love, made from what they feared most. Asked why did they fear us? Because she said, you are what they cannot control, a bridge between what was and what could be. And bridges always scare those who build walls. She looked at the girl and said, your time is ending. Your choice is near. You can return to the council, erase all of this, or protect him and become what they tried to bury. The girl stood, eyes full of storm, wings wide. I choose truth. Light around them trembled, and the voice said, then remember, this choice will echo across every sky and far above in the Seraphim Council Hall. The elders felt the pulse, the light, the decision, and one of them whispered, she has found the heart. The stars were falling one by one, like memories breaking, like promises made too long ago. The sky was bleeding light, and the earth held its breath as if it knew the end had come. She stood at the edge of the crystal bridge, looking into the storm. Below, her wings spread wide, glowing brighter than ever before, but her face was still calm, like someone who had stopped fearing loss. Beside her the boy stood, silent, hands clenched, eyes glowing, faint like fading fire. He could feel the pressure, pull of both worlds, each asking him to choose, each offering him only half of himself. Behind them the chamber was gone, erased by choice, erased by truth. The Seraphim elder had vanished, leaving only a whisper behind, the kind that stays in the soul forever. The gate began to close, its light dimming, its walls shaking. They had minutes, maybe less, before the architects arrived, not to speak, not to ask, only to take, only to end. She turned to him, her voice quiet but full. I saw it. I saw the world. They want to make a world where everything is in order, everything is controlled, no questions, no bridges, no light. He looked at her. What do we do then? She stepped forward, placed her hand near his heart, not touching but close enough, and said, we break it all, we leave a mark they cannot erase. The ground rumbled, the air cracked, and from above they came metal wings, sharp like knives, dark as regret. The architects had arrived. A ship hovered above them, giant and silent, no sound, no voice, just a beam of pale light falling on them like a judgment, like a god that had forgotten love. From the sky a voice finally spoke. It was not human, not Seraphim, it was both and neither. Return the origin, return the hybrid, or be erased from time. the girl stepped into the light and said, "Then erase me. I am not yours, I never was." Boy reached for her, but she turned her eyes full of something new. Not fear, not courage, but acceptance. "They want to end me," she said, "because I carry the first dream, the dream that we could be one," he shouted. "Then let me carry it with you. We end this together." She smiled softly, but then shook her head. Not this time. Her wings opened wide, and from her chest, a burst of light exploded, slow and quiet. Not like a bomb, not like war, but like a final breath. The ship stopped, the storm froze, the stars paused, and in that moment, everything remembered. They saw the first age again. The peace, the sky, the unity they had buried, and then they saw her for what she really was. Not just a watcher, not just a code, not even a girl, but a key meant to unlock the part of both species that had been closed for too long. The light faded and she was gone, not destroyed, not erased, but returned to the source like a note returning to the song. Boy dropped to his knees, the echo of her voice still in his chest, not in words, but in feeling. Hope. Ship above paused, scanned the ground, scanned him, and for the first time in the history of their silence, said nothing. It turned and vanished into the clouds, not in fear, not in defeat, but in thought. They had seen something they could not contain. He stood alone now, no ships, no noise, no glow, just wind and dust and memory. He walked for days through ruined cities, through empty halls, through echoes of who she was, carrying her last vision in his bones. And one day, far from all light, far from all sound, he stood before a broken mirror and looked at his face. And in his reflection he saw her not as a ghost, not as a dream, but as light behind his eyes, like she had passed through him, like she had left herself behind, not to be remembered, but to become. He closed his eyes and whispered only once, "I still see you," and somewhere deep in the stars a soft glow blinked once, then faded like a promise, waiting to return.